Everybody, thanks for so much for coming. And let me hit the got it button. I always think when I get an email from Jamuna Bihari, it's a 3-step process. One is, who's that? Because it comes underneath his legal name, and I don't know who that is. Then I'm like, oh, the second, I'm like, who's that? Then the second one is, oh, Ananda Bihari. And I think of this smiling face and I'm happiness. And then the third is, he's probably asking me to give Bhagavatam class. And a big wash of fear fills my very being. But because my Guru Dev has always said that we advance by 2 things. We advance by serving the devotees. And can we all say, and most of us are on this call all the time, could there possibly be a more steadfast devotee than Ananda Bihari? Except the other steadfast devotee we have here, which is, of course, Adi. So I bow at your feet, and I bow at all of your feet, all the faces that I see here, Krishna Jaya Das, everybody. So I hope that I can serve you. And then the other thing that Maharaj always says is that we advance through mercy of the Vaishnavas. So I beg your mercy and your forgiveness. I bow down, especially to Adi and Arjun, if he's there, Henry, but all of you really are senior to me in your devotion and your knowledge. So please give me your blessings that I can speak something that will please Krishna and my Guru Dev and be enlightening to you. And though I am not Adi Purusha and the blue aprons and the roars, I must sing Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Janavana Girivana Dari, Gopi Janavana Girivana Dari, Gopi Janavana Girivana Dari, Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from, going to see a lot of me with glasses today. It's very dark in here because I live in a basement apartment, so I need my glasses. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, chapter 23, verse 38. We have 3 verses plus 2 appearance days and 1 disappearance day on the docket today. So a very, very full day. I already beg your forgiveness for the Sanskrit, so I'll go verse by verse because I love each and every one of these verses. Atanusmitra Vripraste Anvatapyan Kriptagashaha Yad Vishvesvar Vyayor Natsyam Ahamavrit Ambaho. The Brahmins then came to their senses and began to feel great remorse. They thought, we have sinned, for we have denied the request of the two lords of the universe who deceptively appeared as ordinary human beings. It was a translation and a purport by the divine disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Purport. Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram did not try to deceive the Brahmanas. They straightforwardly requested food from them. Rather, the Brahmanas deceived themselves, as indicated by the Sanskrit word nirvidambayo, which means that Krishna and Balaram are bewildering for an ordinary human being who considers them also to be human. Still, because the wives of the Brahmanas were great devotees of the Lord, the foolish Brahmins received spiritual benefit and finally came to their senses. Om again to Miranda Chat Janan Janan Chalakaya, Takshurimitamena Tasmai Shri Gurude Namaha, Vanchakopa to Rubicha, Kripa Sindhu Bicha, Petitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavi no Namo Namaha, Jaya Shri Krishna She, Tanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Dvaita Gadadha, Shri Vasudeva, the Bhaktivinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And I ask your blessings and your forgiveness and your forbearance. Let me just read this first verse again. The Brahmins then came to their senses and began to feel great remorse. They thought, we have sinned, for we have denied the request of the two lords of the universe who deceptively appeared as ordinary human beings. So there's an old song, I think it was Michael Jackson that sang it, and it's Who's Zooming Who? And, this is way before Zoom was a thing like we have a Zoom, but the content of it was who's playing, we use the expression now, playing, who's fooling who, right? And so when I was reading this verse, that's the first thing I thought of, who's zooming who? Because indeed, the Brahmanas say that Krishna is deceptive. Yeah, and there is definitely deception going on. There is trickery going on in this pastime. But the Brahmanas got it all wrong about the type of deception. And in fact, the way I think of it, who's zooming who? Because when we look at what they say, Krishna is deceiving us. They're pretending like they're human beings. And, Brahma's got a point because we all know Krishna is a bit of a trickster. How do we know? Because he tells us himself, right? In the Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? Of cheats, I am the gambler. I found something really wonderful that Srila Prabhupada said about gambling, and I can just hear his voice when he's saying it. He says, gambling, there isn't gambling. It requires some expert brain, how to play gamble. So that expertness, that part of expert endeavor is Krishna. So we should not think, because Krishna is gambling also, so let us engage and devote in gambling. No, Krishna is everything. Krishna is everything. But we have to select favorably, not unfavorably. I just loved it. I can see him saying, no, Krishna is everything. Krishna is everything. Right? And so Krishna tells us, I am a cheat. And then he shows us what pastime were we just in, all of us together, just a little while ago. There he is, stealing the clothes from the gopi. Not even that. Like, if you want it, you can't cover yourself, up your hands go. In the Mahabharata, we change the time, like for daylight savings time and all that stuff. But in the Mahabharata, what does that trickster do? He literally changes the time of day to help the Pandavas, right? And then in one of my favorite stories of trickery, when Krishna is little and is doing all that stealing the butter, and he goes into the house of one of the other gopis. And of course, I always love this little fun fact that if they've hung up the butter or hid it from him and he can't see it, he gets mad and he pees on their floor. Right? And then one day he's caught red-handed, or I suppose we should say blue-handed, by one of the gopis. And she drags him back to Mother Yashoda. And I can just see her. She's walking with her face upright. She's got him by his little wrist. And she's probably not looking down, because she looks down, she'll see his cute face and maybe soften, right? But she's like, nope, I'm turning him in this time. And she walks and she brings him, Mother Yashoda, your child has been stealing my butter. Mother Yashoda looks at the gopi, looks at the child that she's holding, looks at the gopi, looks at the child, and she goes, Mataji, I think you're a little confused, because just there is Krishna. And she turns and she shows that Krishna is playing with Balaram. And when the gopi looks down, she sees that the hand she's holding is her very own son's. Oh, she's so embarrassed, and she turns to go. And as she goes, of course, it's Krishna being mystical, and he turns himself back into himself. And he turns and he looks at her and said, you better be careful, because next time I'll turn myself into your husband. So there he is, full of tricks. And of course, the grand trick of all, Krishna, have you eaten dirt? Krishna, open up your mouth. And she sees the universe. But oh no, through Yogamaya, the biggest trick of all, she doesn't think she sees the universe. All she sees is her adorably sweet son. And so, yeah, Brahmanas, you're right. He is a trickster, but here's the thing. He will, I love that expression, beg, borrow, and steal. He will beg, he will borrow, he will steal. But why? To get our love. And the Brahmanas, they got it upside down and backwards. In the purport, I'll just read it from here. The devotees, right, of Srila Prabhupada's, right, rather the Brahmanas deceive themselves by what? Considering Krishna to be an ordinary human being. We all know well the verse from the Bhagavad Gita. What does Krishna call people like that? Fools. Fools deride me when I descend in human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. And whenever I come to one of those things, and yesterday, Brahmatirtha made such a good point about things being prescriptive, right? You know, it's easy to point the fingers like, Brahmanas, you got it wrong. But what's that old saying? When you're pointing a finger, you got the other ones pointing back at you. To think, when in my life am I the fool? When am I in my life, do I have Krishna showing up right in front of me? And I take it as an ordinary thing. You know, this year I've gotten a chance to be on Zoom calls with people that don't have indeed the gift of being able to go to a temple anytime they want and see the beautiful forms of the divine and be with devotees. And how often do I myself take it for granted? I stroll in and out of the Bhakti Center, you know, almost every day of the week. And sometimes I forget, I take it too much for granted that there they are. I take too much for granted that Krishna appears in the words of the Bhagavatam that I always have. I mean, thanks, all praises to Database. You know, I'm sitting there on the subway, there it comes, right? I take for granted that I have in my life, all of you, that in the Bhakti Center, there's Prajumna, who is Prabhupada's Sanskrit scholar, right? Krishna is everywhere. And when am I like those Brahmins? And even worse, like, remember a few days ago, we were reading that the Brahmins didn't even give the cowherd boys the dignity of an answer. They just didn't even answer them. How many times does Krishna show up in my life and I don't answer him? Right? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. You know, I'm like, he's making the phone call. I'm not picking up. And so that's one of the things I think about, like, and I love what the way Brahmatirtha says it. It's not to say, oh, bad Brahmins, but if I can't also then apply, if I can't see that tendency in me, then I'm just reading it and I'm just becoming a fault finder, which we know is like one of the worst things that could possibly be. So that is one of the tricks going on here, is that the Brahmins are deceiving themselves. They're being a fool, as Krishna says. And then also I think, how am I? How am I also foolish in that way? But then also in the Krishna book, there we go. Let me pull that up so we can read it. Srila Prabhupada speaks about a whole another aspect of trickery he says, oh goodness, there it is. Therefore, it is simply illusion for one to think that Krishna begged food from the Brahmins. It was actually a trick to show them mercy by teaching them that they should accept him in pure devotional service instead of engaging in ritualistic ceremonies. The Vedic ceremonial paraphernalia, the suitable place, the suitable time, the different grades of articles for performing the ritualistic ceremonies, the Vedic hymns, the process of sacrifice, the priest who is able to perform the sacrifice, the fire, the demigods, the performer of the sacrifice, and the religious principles are all meant for understanding Krishna. For Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is the supreme Lord Vishnu and the Lord of all mystic yogis. So therefore, let me go back here. It was actually a trick to show them mercy by teaching them that they should accept him in pure devotional service, right? And so I was looking back at the second verse in this pastime, and I forget who gave that class, but they made the point, and it's something that I always hear when I hear it, saying that Krishna does this whole pastime to please certain of his devotees. That's the word there, certain of his devotees. And we read it and we think, well, the Brahmins' wives, because that their name is the head of the chapter. Those are the ones that he is looking to serve. But also we see here that his intent is to serve the Brahmins as well, right? It's not, and that is really beautiful. The wives of the Brahmanas are certain, I think, in another way. Certain also means fixed. If I'm certain something about something, I'm sure I'm fixed. They're fixed in their love and devotion of Krishna, aren't they? They've heard it and they're fixed in it. So Krishna is serving even those certain devotees, but also those devotees that have become not so fixed, right? It in the purport, again, it says, still, because the wives of the Brahmins were great devotees of the Lord, the foolish Brahmins received spiritual benefit and finally came to their senses. And that's what my Guru Dev always says, we advance by mercy of others. They're getting the mercy of their wives. And I find this so hope-giving, the way Ananda Vihari sometimes says, so hope-giving. Then I'm not so certain, but still, here he is. He'll beg, borrow, and steal to get my attention, to get me to turn to him, to get me to love him, to get me to go back home. And so I was really appreciating this trickery. I used to work for a magician long ago. I've been sawed in half, I've been levitated, I've been put in a box with swords in it. And so I appreciate the trick, the tricksterness. But how wonderful is Krishna? That Krishna is a trick and he will do anything, any trick to get us to turn to him. So that is that's the first verse. Let me click to see the second verse. Yeah, okay. There we go. Trista Srimad Bhagavati Krishna Bhaktim Alokikim Atmanam Chatayahim Nam Anutapta Vagarhayan. And translation, taking note of the wives' pure, transcendental devotion for Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and seeing their own lack of devotion, the Brahmins felt sorrowful and began to condemn themselves. Now where's the unstop? I not, okay, yeah, oops, did I share that? Sorry. Sorry if I didn't. I thought I did. So this thinking that, I love that they were saying about the devotion of the wives, made me think of two of the appearance days that are today. And when we think of a devoted wife, can we think of anyone higher than Sita Devi? Today is her appearance day. And just before I logged on, I see that our good friend Rukmini Walker has written a beautiful piece. I didn't have a chance to read it because surely I would have just stolen and said what she said. And there's not enough time really to go through the glories of Sita Devi. That is something we want our Sita Devi to come and do a whole day sometime on, isn't it? But what I really love about Sita Devi, I'm going to read a little passage from Krishna Dharma's The Ramayan, which is one of my favorites. And this is the moment of the marriage, the real union, he will write, of Sita and Ram. Sita came down from the balcony with a garland of golden flowers in her hands and stood by her father. She was resplendent in a silk sari of deep maroon, a necklace of pearls shining on her breast. As she walked, her golden anklets tinkled, and her diamond earrings swung to and fro. Smiling gently, she shyly lifted her eyes a little and looked at Ram, who caught her glance. Both felt their hearts moved by love. In that manner, their union was forged. And so we know that Sita Devi is much more than just a beautiful, physical, beautiful being. She is indeed the most perfect partner. Yes, Ram, I will go with you into the forest, even though it's not what we would call glamping. No, Hanuman, I won't go with you. I want Lord Ram, my husband, to come and rescue me so that all may see his glories. Yes, I will walk into that fire. You know, there's so much could be said about Sita Devi, but again, with this descriptive and not prescriptive, I think of myself as, when can I be that sort of partner to my marvelous husband? When can we see this partnership, this faith? And Sita Devi, she really is a model of calmness. That time when she's all by herself. Really, of course, she cries and she wails, but keeping it together. What a wonderful, and I also love that she comes from the earth. What a wonderful grounding quality. And so today, just want to take a nod to this appearance day of Sita Devi. Of course, another person whose appearance day today is another wife, and that is Janava Mata. And she is, of course, the wife of our own Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda, I think, could not have been an easy person to be married to. We read his stories of being a bit of a wild man, let us just say. So I think about Bhakti Thakur wrote this beautiful, so many years, where did it go? Yeah. Wrote this beautiful little passage for her, about her. Oh, Janava Devi, be merciful to this servant today. Deliver me from my pain and give me a place in the boat of your lotus feet so that I can be sure to cross over the ocean of birth and death. You are Nityananda's energy. You are devotion to Krishna and my Guru. Please give this servant the desire tree of your lotus feet. How numerous are the fallen souls that you have served. So this fallen beggar seeks a place at your feet. We all know well that when the Panchatattva left, right, the movement landed in her hands. She organized the first Gaura Purnima. And I love the stories of her cooking so wonderful for all the devotees, and her love for all the devotees. Yeah. And when we look at, in contrast, the Brahmins here who have sort of lost their soul in their worship, we can see, I can almost picture her with her full soul in this offering. And having a full soul in the offering brings me to the last great soul whose appearance day is today. And that's Madhu Pandit, who is a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. And Gadadhar Pandit is, of course, Radharani herself. And it is his love of the Gopinath deity that is why he's extolled. It's said that he went looking for the Gopinath deity and couldn't find it, and almost was starving to death. And he was sitting by the water Yamuna, and the water came crashing and delivered the deity to him. But it's also said that another devotee had seen that deity first, Paramananda Bhattacharya, And Brahmananda Bhattacharya, knowing Madhu Pandit's love for the deity, gave him the great honor of being the one to actually care for the deity. So we see that he advances, like I said at the beginning, through the mercy of another devotee. And there's a beautiful prayer that goes to Madhu Pandit. I offer my respectful obeisance to the great Madhu Pandit. His strong, loving affection for the Lord is as sweet as honey as he takes part in the transcendental pastimes of the rasa dance in the supreme realm of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Jai the great souls. Let us take inspiration and association of Sita Devi, Janavamata, Madhu Pandit today. But there's one more verse. And this verse is the one that when I looked it up, I had to giggle because if you know this verse, you know why. And it is, oddly enough, it is one of the first verses that I ever heard my Guru Dev speak. Maharaj is a great fan of this pastime, and I heard him speak it many, many times. And I remember when the English translation came out of his mouth, I was like all like a teenager. Oh, you can say that word? And Maharaj is such a fan of that pastime. Then in his wonderful series, Monday Morning Greetings, he writes an essay every single Monday. I know many of you, I have the God sister on the call, receive these Monday morning greetings. He wrote a beautiful essay about this last verse, and it's called, You're Wrong. And so I'm going to read directly from Maharaj's essay. Within the essay comes the verse. So I'm just going to fold it all in. And there's no better way than to conclude with your Guru Dev's words, I'd like to say. So the essay is called, You're Wrong. How we fight those words, even when, well, we're obviously wrong. It was early morning in the sweet land of Vrindavan during my japa meditation. As my concentration deepened, some mistakes that I had made drifted into my consciousness. I could have let the thoughts go, or at least I could have tried, but their nature was forcing me to confront them. Then, before the pain of admission could pinch my ego, I heard a soothing internal voice. It wasn't your fault. It was circumstantial. The mistakes were exaggerated and you accepted responsibility. You're so humble. Just as I was rationalizing my faults, however, I was hit by a more challenging and powerful message. That week in my daily satsang, I had been teaching the story, The Deliverance of the Wives of the Brahmins, from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. I just lectured on the part where the learned or austere Brahmins were awakened not only to their own offenses, but also to the challenging realization of how paltry their spiritual attainment was as compared to their simple wives. They condemned themselves in the harshest way. To hell with our being initiated priests, our vows of celibacy, and our extensive learning. To hell with our aristocratic background and our expertise in the ritual of sacrifice. These are all condemned because they are inimical to the transcendental personality of Godhead. What struck me in the story was the Sanskrit word used for remorse, which I gleaned to have the same root as tapa, meaning austerity or heat. At least that's how I read it. The story brought to my mind the point that embracing our faults is an austerity, a practice that burns our false ego, that cherished conception of being better than others, of being the controller and enjoyer. So that day, as I was watching the process of rationalization, co-opting any sense of remorse, I thought of this pastime and was inspired to stop rationalizing and let the acknowledgement of my blunders burn the false ego, the insidious desire to be the controller. Internally, I screamed, but at the same time, the holy name became more and more the focus of my consciousness as I embraced the humble position. You're wrong. Oh, how we hate these words, but at the same time, how good they can be for us if we accept them properly. We have studied the Gitas, we have studied the teachings of the Gitas so many times, and we abhor the self-centered. Why then should it be so difficult to hear these words, even for one fairly advanced on the path? We've come to this world to seek our pleasure from enjoyment, not love. We thus seek power in the form of wealth, education, beauty, position, and so on to conform the world to our desires and sense of superiority. As admitting our mistakes even to one other person or just to ourselves means a diminishment of status or loss of power, we fight that conception tooth and nail, even if it belies our core values and is unbecoming to our spiritual life. It is counterintuitive, but all glories to I'm wrong. And so, again, to that prescriptive, I think this last verse really shows us to we're wrong. Sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes we're wrong. And in that moment, it is really wonderful how they cop to it, as we say. So I'm going to stop there. I thank you all for your attention, your time, your mercy. I beg your forgiveness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your mercy, Jamuna Jaya. Everybody's so happy that you're sharing so much nectar. You included Lord Chaitanya, you included Nityananda Prabhu, you included Nityananda Prabhu's consort, Jamuna Devi, so many saints, Radharani, everybody, your Guru Maharaj, so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Jamuna Jaya. Would anyone like to ask a question or make a reflection? It's hard to reflect what has been shared, but let's try.
Let me see what's happening did I miss anything in the chat box? Bigger deal. Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah, Jamuna Jaya, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Very well. I have a question. So in this verse we see today, like I explained, right? So the wives of the Brahmanas were, of course, very simple-minded, and they achieved perfection, whereas the Brahmanas were lost, like you said. So I mean, does that mean that we should not pay too much attention to rituals and all these ways of recommended worship? How much from our side, how much should we pay attention to that versus trying to be simple-minded and focus on devotion?
Yeah, that's an excellent. Thank you for asking this excellent question. It's something I think about all the time, all the time. But we hear in scripture that one should not hold on too tightly to the rules or too loosely. And that's so hard because that's going to be a judgment call. And that's when we really have to consider our own nature and what is favorable and unfavorable to us, right? We know the story of Lord Ram, and I forget the name of the woman, but she bites all the berries, right, to find the tastiest one. And Lakshman's like, no, he's not having it. But Lord Ram, yes, yet let her come. So I think that, I was just thinking about this the other day. If, again, to quote my Guru Dave, he says it's the job of ritual to conform ourselves something higher to ourselves. And if we can feel that happening, then it's a good thing. But if we are so tight in it, so it's actually making us harder. In his book, Mahatma Das, The Living the Wisdom of Bhakti, which is an awesome book, he speaks quite a bit about that. He says it's like we always have to check ourselves. Is it making me hard? Is it making me hard? Is it making me hard? But if it's making me soft, and this is where also I think having people you can ask about these things. Again, we lean on, like Shastra says, and I love that teaching about neither too much or too little. And then going to Guru Dev because they know you and they know the path to advise you. I remember when I was having trouble before I was initiated, like getting my rounds done. And I went to Danyadar Swami Maharaj and I said, Maharaj, is it okay to do this? I was hearing that you have to sit for and do this. And he really gave me a way that it was the proper thing to do, but fitted to my personality and my lifestyle. So I think we always have to consider what's in our hearts, and it's a hard call, but I like hearing that if we hold on too tightly, we can almost feel it, but then not too loosely, and getting advice on that and the Shastric advice and advice from seniors and people that know us is what I like to do. Is that an okay answer?
That's perfect. All right. Thank you, Jamuna Jaya.
Thank you. Oh, there's Adi's face. Please, Adi, speak. He's having trouble finding the unmute button. Oh no, it's shaking and quaking, but he's not unmuting. I was thinking before class, I mean, I always listen to the bhajans, but this was like I was trying to get all my technology ready for the class. But what better preparation for the class would to hear Adi's bhajans. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you, Sabari. Thank you, Krishna Jaya Das. I do love that pastime because there she is, biting each and every berry, trying to get the proper berry. And Lord Ram is like, or that's the story of the man that was holding the Bhagavad Gita upside down. He's like, I can't even read it, but my Guru Dev tells me so. So I moved to it. Yeah, Krishna Jaya Das and then Bhakti Devi.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful class.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the question is like, yes, we see a sort of acknowledgement by the Brahmanas about the purity of their wives, the advanced nature, and then they condemn their own high position. Even after that high position, they are unable to understand Lord, the missed Lord, basically. So that is there. But I don't want to reveal the next verses, but this is all.
Yeah.
This is all. So it didn't go to any further step. So while in our spiritual practices also, we understand, we acknowledge our shortcomings, but what prevents us going to the next step, that is the transformation. Acknowledging is one fact. Many times we understand our shortcomings, we acknowledge, but we may not be able to go for the heart transformation or the steps. So how to do that?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean to not reveal it's a cliffhanger because let's just say they don't do the follow through. That's what, as we see so many times. Like, oh my goodness, well, Lord Indra, like, how many times does he have to make a fool out of himself before he gets it? Yeah, so it's yes, the follow through. And one thing that again, I always feel good. I don't want to apologize ever for quoting from my Guru Dev because I think that's the best source I could possibly quote from. But he says, and I see my god sister on the call, and he says many times, the commitment changes consciousness. Commitment changes consciousness. And it's more than just, I say I'm going to do it. And one of the things I think about, what we have faith in, we do. And to really think, I'm going to put faith in this and I'm going to make a commitment to change, because otherwise it's just the thing about the elephant taking the bath. You get in there, you get clean, and then you roll yourself in the dirt again. That analogy that all of us know, right? So it really is about making that commitment. And I love what Maharaj says in about you're wrong. He says, admitting it to one other person, if not just yourself. This is why also, to quote, the 6 loving exchanges, what does it tell us? It tells us to inquire and hear in confidence. And I find that's really powerful to, like, for lack of out yourself to somebody so that they can hold you accountability in a space of safety and love. And then once, like, if a lot of times people write things down or speak it, but if you speak it, particularly to another person, I find that makes me hold accountable. Like, that's one of the things that I love coming to the Bhakti Center. For some reason, a lot of you people on this call think a lot of me. I don't know why, because I'm the biggest fool number 1 and fool number 76. But the minute I walk into that building, one of my prayers is, please let me be who these people think I am. I have a certain amount of accountability because I put my face on everything, like to try to be the person everyone thinks I am, right? So I think that speaking it, of course, we always know, we use our intelligence, who we speak these things to, and in confidence, like saying, this is where I am in my spiritual life. This is my flaws. Help me. And I think also, it's a long time ago now. Yashoda Doyle has me back to teach a class for a long time, and I miss his association always. But I remember he was talking about something, and his way of praying about it is, again, to understand that we are powerless. to change those big flaws, right? And to say, Krishna, please, like, help me. I know I can't do it. I've got this flaw, like these brahmanas, of pridefulness, right? Help me do it. I want to do it. And even if I don't want to do it, give me the desire to desire. I've heard that many times. I think of that a lot. At least give me the desire to want to do it. So pray to Krishna. Say it out loud to somebody that you can trust and help hold you accountable. And so these are some things that I think, and make that commitment to change. Is that okay?
Thank you so much for.
You're welcome. And I see her beaming, Bhakti Devi. Maybe Bhakti Bentley is close by.
No, Bhakti Bentley's upstate.
Okay.
Jamuna Jaya, thank you so much. What a wonderful class. And I have to say, it's your enthusiasm and happiness that exudes all the time that we love about you. So I'm very honored to be your god sister and friend. I really am. And this lesson today is just a good reminder that this path is open to everyone, no matter how learned you are, no matter how unlearned you are, no matter how many mistakes you've made. Just make that commitment and you will change your consciousness. Great job, Jamuna Jaya.
Thank you, Bhakti Devi. Well said. Well said.
Thank you.
Adi, do we have the power to unmute you? Your background's changing. I feel like it's not a class if I don't hear from Adi.
If Adi can do that, he can certainly unmute himself.
I don't know. He's in a different.
How did you change your background, Adi? I need to do that. If you tap in the middle of the screen, then a microphone icon will pop up on the bottom left.
I see he's trying. I just this doesn't feel like
you just changed the background.
Oh my goodness. I just feel like it's not a Bhagavatam class if we don't hear something from Rishna. Wait, even if I ask him to unmute, it won't happen, right? It won't?
Yeah.
Okay, it won't happen. Okay. Right. Okay. Anybody else in Nanavihari? Any way I can serve you this morning?
My beautiful class, Jamuna Jaya, beautiful, and thank you for bringing your Guru Maharaj into this Sangha. My reflection was I really appreciated the point how commitment changes consciousness. I really like that one. I've taken up so many commitments in my devotional career, but my consciousness hasn't changed much. I guess I have to keep trying. I have to keep showing up for my commitments. And there's another one from Vaisheshika Prabhu in regards to commitment. He says, resources follow commitment. In other words, we may feel deficient, or we may feel that we're lacking something, but once we take up a commitment, then resources will follow, according to Vaisheshika Prabhu. Who's on the board?
That's a wonderful reflection. The commitment, the resources will follow. It's so funny then, because literally when I saw the number of this past time, I remember exactly where I was when I heard this for the first time. I was in the second floor of the Bhakti Center before we fixed it all up, and I giggled. It's like, oh, you can say to hell, and I and for those of you who know my Guru Dave, he's spent a lot of time in India, but he's a kid from Brooklyn. So when he said it, it was like, and I'm a kid from Queens. It's like to hell. It's like, oh, and I remember this. And then, like one of the second times he did it, I was up at upstate, and I bought an edition of the Krishna book, and I was looking for this story like furiously, and I didn't know what the name of it was. And I would think Kastuba was there, and I remember just going up to the book of Kastuba and saying, "What's the story with the part to hell with it in?" And Kastuba very calmly took the book, opened it up, and found the pastime. But I think it's so hope giving, but also because there is a bit of a cliffhanger, as next speakers will speak about that. The Brahmins don't really do the follow through. And that's always the thing. We might have moments of inspiration and almost are feeling really connected, you know, when we're in class or when we're in a pilgrimage or when we have that time. But it is the follow through. It's the everyday practice that the wives show. Every day they show up to their services. Every day they're hearing. And so that's what, you know, it's no, you know, Prabhupada is so expert that he gave us no excuse not to practice every day. You know, we have the practice of the morning. We have the chanting, there's reading. There's no excuse to be bored. In Krishna consciousness, we all know that. There's no excuse to be bored.
Not in your class, Jamuna Jaya.
I mean, and there's always something, and especially now that there are so many things online, we have to almost work hard to turn away, because like right now there's like 15 classes going on somewhere, and to avail ourselves so that we keep open. So that little trickster is continuing to beg, borrow, and steal, in like even appearing in the most unlikely things like phones and YouTube and all those things. So we should not turn away. It looks like Darshan is about to open. Yeah, it's 8:02. So
thank you, Jamuna Jaya.
so thank you, everyone. Thank you. Please forgive me and please bless me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay, cameras on, please, if you can. Krishna Daya, are you standing up? Yeah, this is a Vaishnava. See?
Tension builds. When will we see the Lords? When will we see the Lords?
Jai, Shri Shri Radha Mulidhar, Shri Gaura Chandra, Shri Nadia Kishore. Hare Krishna. Okay. Let me mute. All right. Is Jamuna Jaya still here? Okay, yeah, Jamuna Jaya. Thank you very much. Beautiful class. Would anyone like to ask a question or reflect? We take one. We can take one. And I was tempted when Jamuna Jaya was talking about commitment, and showing up for your commitments. I was tempted to add that our commitment is just one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is Krishna's mercy. It's not that we get up there by our commitment and following through. It's not just that. It's also Krishna's mercy that manifests through devotees, through prasadam, through Srila Prabhupada, through books. I was tempted to add that. I feel that that's what Adi was going to say. He always has something wonderful to say in regards to Krishna and how wonderful he is.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Nani Bihari. Of course. Yeah. Can't get it. Do it alone. Yeah. Looks like Adi's smiling that way. What
Did I get it right, Adi? Did I?
is that what I was going to say? Oh, he's muted.
You have to grab Nadia Kishore and okay, let me see. I can ask you to unmute yourself. Ask to unmute and say yes. Yes. Okay.
Yay! He's unmuted.
It took 3 of us 10 minutes to do the phone, but wonderful class. I want to become like Jamuna Jaya when I grow up. Can you hear me?
If you grow up, I don't think you ever will.
Peter Pan says I'll never grow up. We used to say, don't trust anybody over 30. Remember that?
Yeah. We're not over 30. We're eternal.
That's right.
Full of
We
knowledge
have
and
a friend
bliss.
here that is seeing for the first time the class. And
What's your friend's name, Justy? What's your friend's name?
Hi, my name is Yuko.
Yuko. Hare Krishna Yuko. Good morning. Thank you for coming to class.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
She's very happy and very interested.
Good. Thank you, Justy. And your beautiful background, your flowers is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, nice.
Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day. How was that? All glories to, it's my fault? How did Maharaj?
All glories to I'm wrong.
All glories to I'm wrong. Yes, we're all wrong. We just got it wrong. But Krishna is there for us. The devotees are there for us. Srila Prabhupada is there for us. Is our saving grace. Okay. Hare Krishna. Love you all. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to I'm wrong. Yes. Yes.